Nigeria. So what is our mission? It is based in Nigeria, and its aim is for capacity building and then providing consultancy with those in educational fields and areas. So what's our mission? We are on a mission to bridge the skills gaps in Africa and empower organizations' workforce for higher performance and productivity. You know, when you look at Havron, where are we going? You know, how do we do it? We are about bridging gaps as far as education is concerned, especially in Africa, so that workers, professionals can, you know, achieve maximum results in their workplaces. So we currently support organizations in building highly effective workforces and setting up performance management systems for continuous improvement. So we are not just limited to individual empowerment. We go as far as working with organizations. If you need any empowerment program that you want your workforce to be engaged in, you can let us know, and we'll be over there in a bit to help out. So we support organizations to highly build their team members, the workforce, for maximum productivity. So now our vision. What is our vision? We're on a vision. This is what we're looking at. This is where we are going. So we want to be the leading collaborative learning platform in Africa. What does this mean? You know, when you hear Havron, what do we stand for? What's the picture we are looking at? We want to be one of those companies, organizations that work hand in hand with different educational institutions across the globe, so that we can help people who are looking for a way to improve, you know, develop professionally in their career. So that is the vision we are looking at. I want to be the leading organization that helps organizations, individuals to become the best they need to be in their performances, in their workplaces, in their personal development. All right. So now mission strategy. How do we go about the vision that we just showed? Now, capacity development takes a two-pronged approach. The first one is a direct approach. Now, this is via development of in-house capacity building programs consisting of series of soft skills and computer-based applications and delivering them online and face-to-face. This is how we go about achieving our vision. What do? We have courses, in-house courses, rich in content that we release for either online or face-to-face participation. That is in a sitting, although others online, where participants and learners can come and take these courses, you know, from our own end, from in-house Havron end, and, you know, at the end of it, come out with, you know, improvements in their profession and all that they do. So how about the indirect approach? This is how we go also in fulfilling our vision. We partner with reputable institutions of higher learning. Examples of these institutions are the University of Washington. You know, we are in partnership with the University of Washington to be able to connect participants all over the world, you know, to assess courses that if you were taking it individually, it would have been at a very high cost. But through Havron, you can be able to access courses from University of Washington at a very cheaper rate and then at a monitored learning process. So also partner with James Lead Institution, Rochefort Business School, Switzerland, UNICAF, Texila American University, and so many others to make professional development courses more accessible to members of Havron Network. So if you are a member with us, if you are part of us, you can easily have access to courses. You know, you can have access
car electrician and car mechanical. You have generator electrician and generator.
Sorry about that. So all these institutions, work hand in hand with us to be able to make available different courses at cheaper rates, not just that. And at the end of the day, you have close monitoring from Havron Network to enable you go through these courses and achieve the aim at which you wanted to do the courses. So this is what we do. These are the strategies. These are the mission strategy we follow. We have in-house development courses, and then we'll partner with these universities to enable every participant working with our network to achieve the desire of their heart. So quickly, I want us to go over the next phase, which is the pre-course assessment. Now we're looking at emotional intelligence. A lot of us, probably this is the first time we've heard about this particular course. So we just want to test your knowledge on what you feel this course is all about. We want to test your knowledge about what you think emotional intelligence is all about. So this pre-course assessment, I'm just going to project it here. Now, when I project, you go to the chat box, you read the question and put the answer in the chat box. So question 1, question 2, question 3, down to question 10. So we have 10 minutes assigned to this. So I'm going to project the question. Afterwards, you read. If the answer you chose to be the correct answer, you go to the chat box and then you fit the answer there, indicating your choice. So I want to see the knowledge that each and every one of us here today have about what emotional intelligence is all about. So this is the pre. Yes, so number one says, you can read it and go to the chat box and provide the answers quickly. Number 1 says, emotional intelligence is our ability to dash. You can read by yourself and then answer the question, but I'm just still going to go ahead to read for others that will want it to be read. Now, emotional intelligence is our ability to dash. A, to accurately identify emotions in ourselves and others. B says, understand and manage emotions. C says, use and effectively communicate emotional feelings. And then D says, all of the above. Okay, someone has already given an answer to number 1. Okay, please, let's keep the answers coming. 2 says, self-honesty can be defined as the ability to accept your own qualities. Self-honesty can be defined as the ability to accept your own qualities and faults and recognize your own patterns of behavior that help and hinder situations. Is it true? Is it false? Number 2, is it true? Is it false? Self-honesty can be defined as the ability to accept your own qualities and faults and recognize your own patterns of behavior that help and hinder situations. Okay, other answers are already coming in. Some are saying 4, some are saying A. Okay, so let's go to number 3. Which of the following is the most basic part of the brain dealing with respiration, digestion, and fight or flight? So number 3. Okay, someone says no idea. Okay, someone else said D. Okay, we'll look at all the options. So let's go to the next question. Question 4 says, which of the following is not one of the 7 basic human emotions? Which of the following is not one of the 7 basic human emotions? A says, the feeling of surprise. Sorry, A says sadness, B says awe, C says fear, and D says contempt. Which of them is not the 7 basic human emotions? Somebody say contempt, others say fear or sadness. Interesting. So number 5, the feeling of surprise indicates that something unexpected has happened. Is it true? Is it false? So number 5, is it true? Is it false? Okay, beautiful. I can see a lot of answers coming in. So 6 says there are both positive and negative uses of emotion. Wow. There are both positive and negative uses of emotions. A positive use of dash is when people spend more time preparing for an event because they are unsure of the consequences. Okay. A positive use of dash. So there's a positive use of something, the line here that is going to help you to spend more time to prepare for an event because you're unsure of the consequences. A says content, B says happiness, C says anger, D says fear. I can see a lot of answers still popping in. Good job. So number 7 says, which of the following feelings best describes a mix of admiration and ecstasy? Which of them describes a mixture of admiration and ecstasy? A says love, optimism, submission, and all. So, okay, answers are still popping in. Good one. So 8 says emotions have no effect on the physical body. Emotions have no effect on the physical body. So 9 says if we are aware of our emotions and others are also aware of our emotions, we are most capable of open communication. Please, let's endeavor, once we do, let's endeavor to mute so that we will not cause a distraction. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, good. So let's look at number 9. If we are aware of our emotions and others are also aware of our emotions, we are most capable of an open communication. Is it true? Is it false? And the last question says, if an optimist views success as due to accident or fate, a pessimist views success as due to hard work. Is it true or is it false? Love this one, looks toughy. So if an optimist views success as due to accident or fate, a pessimist views success as due to hard work. Is it true? Is it false? Please, can we still see my screen?
Yes, we can still see your screen.
Okay, thank you.
We can see.
So we are number 10. Okay, so these are so much interesting answers to this question that I could see coming in. Okay, I'm very concerned with this number 10. Some people say that number 10 is B. What did B say? B says false, and others are saying that number 10 answer is most people choose B as being false. Interesting. Okay. So well done, everyone, for this session and time. It was wonderful. I'm very sure you had a great time. You enjoyed it. So I'm going to project some of the answers to these questions, and we'll just then at once glance through them so that we can see our choices. It makes it more fun and more anticipatory. The question is supposed to actually trigger a desire, about what the course is about to you. So let's quickly go over to the answers to the questions. These are the answers to the question. So cross-check and then hit your chest. If you got a 10 over 10, just thumbs up for yourself. If you got a 9 over 10, clap for yourself if you got an 8 over 10, and then say, yes, I tried. If you got a 7 and below. So well done, everyone. I'm very sure this was quite interesting. So these are some of the answers. Number 1 says, all of these statements define parts of emotional intelligence. B says the answer is true. Self-honesty means being truthful about yourself. And C says the reptilian brain. You see, somebody was confused about that. The reptilian brain is the most basic part of the brain. And all is not one of the basic human emotions. It is a sub-emotion of surprise. And then 5 says true. Surprise indicates something unexpected has happened for the better or for the worse. 6 says fear can be used positively to making sure you are as well prepared as possible. 7 says love is the best description for a mix of admiration and ecstasy. I would have really loved to look at number 7 and people's answers, and then the other answers to that. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking our time to go through this. So quickly, I just wanted to type in the chat box. If you got a 10, give yourselves a thumbs up. If you got an 8, just let's see your best emoji and all that. Well done. So moving forward, we are going to still look at the agenda for the day and then know what next to follow. All right. So we're looking at the course overview. Mr. Roy, are you with us now? Okay. He's been having some network hinges. Roy? Okay, so he's actually meant to take this session, but since he's not been able to join, I'll just go ahead and push us through. What is it? Good job. You see? I love this. Someone got 8 over 10. Someone got 9 over 10. Well done. So those of you that couldn't pace, you can still keep your scores coming in. And then those that have already, kudos to what you have done. And then the other ones I didn't get through this course, you're going to understand more and get them as well. So let's look at the course overview. What is emotional intelligence? When you want to talk about it, what is it all about? We're going to see how it is broken down to the different aspects and what you're supposed to learn from it. So, our learning objectives, 1. So in this course, we are going to be understanding what emotional intelligence means. We're going to recognize how our emotional health and physical health are related. I think there's one question during the pre-course assessment, whether our emotions affect our physical health. So one of the objectives is that this course is going to help us to understand our emotional health and its relationship to our physical health. Next objective is we are going to learn techniques to understand, use, and appreciate the role of emotional intelligence in the workplace. Very, very key and very critical. Like there's a saying that says no human being is an island. We all need each other, and no single tree can make a forest. So therefore, it is important that we understand how to work with others in an organization. You are not a jack of all trades. Everybody's ideas, everybody's contribution is needed. So emotional intelligence, it's another key techniques that everybody needs to have understanding of to be able to work effectively in an organization with other people. So these are some of the objectives of the course. Through this course, you're going to understand all this. And then next one is objectives 2 is that we're going to also understand the different emotions and how to manage them. Everybody that knows that there are different emotions. We just know, there is happy, sad, what again? Happy, sad. I think basically I'm happy today, I'm sad, but there are much more, different emotions that people express. Some are even verbal, some are non-verbal, that, we get or we have to understand to be able to relate with others well. Also, we're going to create a personal vision statement. If you don't know where you are going, every emotion can prick you or can cause a drastic change in your life that, might just make you wander away. But when you have a clear vision stated out, it helps you to understand where you are going and how to be able to manage whatever emotion that presents itself at every given time. Also, we are going to understand the difference between optimism and pessimism. Okay, we're going to also validate emotions in others. All these are covered in this course. So, section 2, I'm going to quickly hand over to my co-facilitator in the house, Mrs. Choma Amazi, as she takes over from here. Hello, Ma, are you still with me?
Yes, good morning. I'm here. Good morning, everyone. Good to be here. So we're going straight to section 2, which says the history of emotional intelligence. Let's see how it all started, the study of this emotional intelligence. What is it about? How did it start? Okay,
We
can
hear
you
you.
hear me?
Okay, are you? Yes, we can hear you. Hear you now.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. All right,
So you can take over.
okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Patience. Okay, so you can see from what is displayed that emotional intelligence has been a study that has been going on for decades. Started from the year 1848, and then different philosophers tried to define the meaning of emotional intelligence. We have your Phineas Cage and then your Charles Darwin as at 1875, who talked about the expression of emotions in man and animal. These are people who started the researching about this emotional intelligence. They combined the man and animal, how they reason and how they think. We have, as at 1936, a great philosopher, Robert Thorndike, who also looked at social intelligence, another beautiful aspect of emotional intelligence. And we also look at in 1940, who David Westchester, who talked about non-intellectual intelligence. These are different aspects, all starting from one person who looked at the general aspect of emotions. Why do people have emotion? Why do people react in different ways? So that is the one part. That's how emotional intelligence started. And then over the years, we still find out that there are many other studies that are also into this emotional intelligence. They will, can we, can you hear me? Please, if you can hear me, just indicate with an emoji if we are together.
Yes, we
All
are
right.
together. We can hear you now.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So we see that it has been something that everyone has experienced, though some people don't know how to explain it. So it's something that we need to understand as it will form a key aspect of our entire being. Next slide, please. Right. So from then, from the 1842, it just transcends to 1972, where Paul Ekman studied about emotions in the human face. It's no longer about man and animal. It now goes, how do you read people's emotion through their expression? They try to find out about it. And in that same year, another person, Candice Pert, looked at molecules of emotion. You see that the study became deeper, not about looking at the face. What actually formed these emotions? How does it start? What actually kindles it? That is what Candace Pate in 1972 looked at. And then in 1973, Peter Sylvanus also studied another aspect from the molecules of emotion. He went deeper and then he coined the name towards it. And then we look at Howard Gardner, who looked at that man can actually have multiple intelligence. These are all aspects of emotional intelligence. These all form what man is made of. Next slide, please. Okay, so Howard Gardner multiple intelligence says that where your highest intelligence is based is on 7 intelligence. He made 7 ways which your mind, your emotions can be read. And he also looked at the question which says, what do you do in your workplace that reflects your highest intelligence? He's saying that you have 7 forms that can be read, and the highest form of it is reflected in your workplace by an activity that you do. That was what he researched, and that was what he found, and he tagged it multiple intelligence. Next slide, please. So these are the things. So number 1, he said, why do you do what you do? So, and why is it important? So when you will be able to discover what you do, the action that you took, you ask yourself, why is that action important? If you can answer why you did what you did, you try to analyze the importance of that particular action. And then number 3, he now says, what about what really matters to you? Is it based on your value, what you reacted to? Is it based on how you value a thing? So these questions help us to understand an action and the reason behind it. And the 4th one is, what is one action or feeling you could have at work tomorrow that will make more a part of your day's work? You're talking about in a work scenario, how you can have the highest form of intelligence. Now, if you're able to answer this question, it will guide you to having an effective, stable emotions, especially in the workplace, by deciding in your head what really matters, why you do what you do, and then the value you place on those things. Next slide, please. So, next slide. Okay, so over the time, let's look at what really this definition of emotional intelligence is about. Let's look at it, because we'll look at the history and how it went from one form of trying to understand an emotion to understanding the things that makes up the emotion. So let's look at, from the analysis we got, what really emotional intelligence is about. So emotional intelligence, according to most people reply that says all of the above, is an accurate identifying of your emotions in you and others. You are able to understand people's feeling, why they behave the way they do, why they react to some certain things. And then not just understanding it, you are able to also manage it as a leader, as a subordinate, wherever you find yourself. You know why people act the way they do. You know what value they place on it. You're able to understand and manage it. Thirdly, is also how to effectively communicate those feelings. I think this is where most of us would agree that a lot of us are stuck in how to actually effectively communicate those feelings. So emotional intelligence is the combination of these three: understanding your own emotion and that of others, understanding how to manage it, and how to effectively communicate these feelings. So all these studies that we've seen over the years can be summarized into these 3 simple definitions. Next slide. Okay, so we have different philosophies which also have been able to give us different perspectives to understanding emotional intelligence. And one is Rovenbach, which says emotional intelligence is an array, that series of personal, emotional, and social competencies and skills that influence one ability to succeed in coping with environmental demands and pressure. That is why you see people respond in different way to a particular situation. The way I would respond to a pressure is different from the way you will respond to pressure. So emotional intelligence is about how you understand the scenario presented to you and how you are able to manage and effectively communicate your feelings towards that particular thing in achieving the goal. Next slide. So that is what Reverend Beth talked about. And another perspective is John Mayer and Peter Salovey, which says that emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive, appraise, and express emotions accurately and adaptively. Look at the word accurately, adaptively. You don't express it in a way that there is a misconception. That means people can easily read through it. And it says the ability to understand emotion. You don't just express your own, you understand it, and you have a knowledge of what root or what root cause of that emotion is. It's also the ability to assess and generate feelings when they facilitate thought, and the ability to regulate emotions in ways that assist thought. That is, it's just about how you manage and how you use it, both the ones you're receiving from others and the one you're giving out. That is what his own perspective of emotional intelligence is about. John Mayer and Peter Salovey. Next slide, please. Okay, so I love this model, Mayer and Salovey's model of emotional intelligence. It is just categorized into 4, PUMM, PUM model, which simply means you perceive, you use, understand, and manage. The whole idea of having emotional intelligence can just be summarized into this model. You are able to perceive without being told. You just don't perceive it. You use it effectively. And the only way you can use something effectively is only when you understand it and you're able to manage it. So this school of thought has been able to narrow down what emotional intelligence is for you and for others. Let's look at another school of thought. Next slide. Okay, so Daniel Goleman says that emotional intelligence is the capacity not only to be aware of and able to express our emotions, but to manage and moderate. You see, everything is still in line with what we've been saying previously. You are able to, you're aware of it. You're able to express it in a way that can communicate to the next person. And you make it in a moderate form, not the one that will escalate. That is why he said you're able to moderately manage it, and it's very effective. So it's what prevents anger from turning into rage. That is the moderation, and sadness into despair. See, we said we have positive and we have negative emotion, but when it is unmanaged, that is when it leads to the negative emotion. I used to say generally there are no, in real sense, there are no negative emotion, but it is the inability to manage it that brings about the negative effect of this emotion, which is what Daniel Coleman is talking about. You understand your emotion, you are able to effectively manage it and communicate to your environment or the people in your environment what you feel, how you feel, and use it effectively. Next slide. All right, so there is another model which I also like, which is called the 6-second model, which can be used to back up the PUM model, the PUM model. It's called know yourself, which is awareness. 2, choose yourself, being intentional, and then give yourself. Now, know yourself is increasing our self-awareness and recognizing patterns and feelings that you understand that make you what? Grow. What makes you tick and first, and it's always the first step to growth. So understanding yourself, understanding your triggers, I call them triggers, understanding the things that could cause you to display some emotions that might not be favorable is the first step of having emotional intelligence. You can't study another person if you do not have a good study of yourself. And another one is choose yourself, which means building self-management and self-direction allows you to consciously choose your thoughts, your feelings, and action. So you don't need to be in a state where you said, I didn't know when I reacted this way, because you are intentional. Now you are aware, living in self-awareness. So the first step is being aware of what you are, the triggers, and what you can do Now, be intentional about how you actually display this thing. If you know the things that makes you feel unconscious in displaying your emotion, you will know how to manage the scenario so that those triggers that causes you not to manage it effectively is avoided. Then when you're done with that, you now go to giving yourself a purpose. All right. So aligning your daily choices with your larger sense of purpose unlocks your full power and potentials. It comes from using empathy. Empathy is understanding a situation and then putting yourself in that situation, not letting yourself be swallowed. The difference between sympathy and empathy is empathy, you allow yourself to understand the situation, you find a way out of that situation. While sympathy is allowing yourself to be in that situation and then you wallow in it. So in giving yourself purpose, it comes from using empathy and principled decision making to increase wisdom and handling every aspect. Please, if you can hear me, just indicate by emoji so that I know that we are following. Thank you. Not forget, if you have questions, you can always write at the chat box. Just drop your questions. At the end of this whole class, we will take a time to look at your questions. Next slide, please. All right. So making connections. So how does this whole definition from the history of emotional intelligence and the different perspectives and models made by different philosophers, how do they connect? What do they have in common? And how are they different? So these are the things I want us to do. This briefly, just tell me from these things that we have spoken, how do they connect? Just write in the chat box for me so that we know that we are together and I've not been talking to myself. So what do you think these definitions have in common? The history and the different perspective. So let's see that you come up with your own definition of emotional intelligence from this little explanation and different psychology of people about emotional intelligence. So let's see your response. What do you think they have in common and how are they different? Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing your response. Next slide.
Okay, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Choma. I was really enjoying the class already. I was already having goosebumps. That was excellent presentation there. So like she said, I'm going to give us like 5 minutes to put an answer to those questions in the chat box, and I'm going to read the first 5 persons. I'll read out their definitions and then what the field is, definition and the history is all about. So please, let's quickly go over to the chat box and put in our own opinions and making reference to these questions on the screen right now. Thank you once again, Mrs. Choma. It's great. We really learned a lot, and I'm sure every other person can testify to that too. So what do the definition of emotional intelligence have in common? How are the definitions different? So what do you think? How will you define emotional intelligence in your own understanding, that best suits you? So let me go over to the chat box. We have 4 more minutes left. Let's see what we'll come up with as our own answer to the questions on the screen. Okay, so somebody says, identify your emotions and expressing it appropriately and manage them. So I think that is what is in common, or is it the definition of emotions? I'm feeling this is the answer to question 1. So in all the definition and the history, we have seen that you need to identify your emotions, you need to express it appropriately, and then you need to manage them to avoid escalating into something harmful. And then in summary, somebody say, discover, know it, understand, and then manage it. This is the similarity between them. There's somebody say to be able to manage people differently. And another definition here is from Okechukwu. And thank you, Mikasua. Thank you, Motorayo. Thank you, Emmanuel Badi. Thank you, Edwin Ocheni. So Okechukwu's Eberechukwu defines emotions as your ability to understand your emotions and how to manage it and how to use it productively and positively. Thank you, Okechukwu. Then Edwin says, emotional intelligence is the ability to channel your emotions positively and acting intentional without hurting both yourself and others. Wow. Okay, so Elizabeth, understanding emotions, adapting. Ikechukwu, okay, sorry. Hilary says the ability to identify as well as manage your emotions at every level of management. All right, so Patricia says the ability to understand and manage emotions. Thank you so much for your responses. That means we are on this together and then everyone is following. So we're going to go over to section 4, you know. But before that, I have a question. Before we launch into section 4, I have a question. So this is my question. I don't know if you can hear me. I want to use, let me type it in the chat box so that we can all see and react to it. So before we move to the next section, I already have a question in the chat box. So let's look at it briefly, answer it. What will you do to a very productive staff, to a very productive and a creative staff who has temper issues? What will you do to a very productive staff who has temper issues? What will you do? So I'll give us another 5 more minutes to attend to that before you do. Now, so far that we've learned what emotional intelligence is and the history, what will be your response to such a person? The person is creative, the person is productive. In fact, without the presence in your company, you wouldn't have moved to the level you are. But the issue is that the person has a temper issue. He can easily flee off, and then before you know it, he's saying sorry. So in that kind of situation, what will you do? Okay, somebody says, I will understand his stroke her motivation and interest to enable me manage the emotion effectively. Okay, I like this. I'm going to understand the person's motivations, and then I'm going to understand his interest. This is from Elizabeth Matthias, so that I'll be able to manage him effectively. So another person, Hadiza, said, I'll get the staff to learn about emotional intelligence because to have a temper issues, it means they are not in control of their emotions. Okay. First thing is to understand what triggers the temper. Okay. Okay. Somebody says you learn to manage the person. That's from Edwin. Then Rashid says first things to understand what triggers the temper. And then Ikechukwu says, always avoid doing things that will provoke him. Continue to counsel him and monitor him. Okay, John Ewuga says, emphatic should be encouraged to help him to be productive much more. Interesting. Okay, Calvin says, let him be aware of his temperament and how it works, how it affects work environment. Guide him to better develop himself through books, seminars, create a good working environment to avoid tempers. Okay, Patrick says, A person with temper issues needs some psychological, psychosocial support. If you have a unit which provides such support, he can get such services. Okay, thank you. Jacob lastly says should be provided mentorship. Oh, wow, beautiful. So your answers are so interesting. And then I will just use this opportunity to let us know that, you know, most of the answers you provided, managing your emotions, mentorship programs, you know, get him to counseling and therapy, all that. Having have all those courses outlined, I will also talk to us about that at the end of this course. But I just want to chip into that question before we move ahead. Now, sometimes, no matter what you do to some people, their temper won't just go. It's just there. So, you know, there's an interesting thing in our world right now, which is the virtual space. So one of the things I feel you can also add to the answers that has been given is that you can as well seclude the person. Since the person is productive and creative and you don't want to lose such a staff, you can also give the person space. For example, stay at home and do your work and send it over if there is provision for that, so that we avoid it affecting the other workforce in the company. I really enjoyed seeing the answers that you have provided. And then lastly, understand to trigger and enhance his or her knowledge on emotional intelligence and psychosocial support. Thank you very much, everyone, for those beautiful answers. So moving forward, we're in section 4, emotional intelligence blueprints. Okay, what are the blueprints of emotional intelligence? Okay, so how do you get to say, oh, this person has emotions now, this person is in the happy mood, this person is sad, this person is surprised? How do you get to understand all that, right? So we're going to look at that in this session. So identify emotions. How do you identify emotions? So these are some of the reflective questions we should think about. How do I recognize emotions? Where do I hold emotions in my own body? Okay, is it in the brain? Is it in the stomach? Is it in the leg? Where are my emotions situated in my own body? How do I feel for sure that what I believe is true? Wow. So when you want to identify emotions, these questions, sit down, think about them. How do you now recognize emotion? Is emotion black, blue, white? What's the color? So in attempt to answer that, you should first of all ask, how do I recognize emotions? Where do they have a place in my body? How do I feel? Or how do I know for sure that what I believe is true? So some of the skills that can help you to come to understanding or to enhance your ability to identify emotions are be empathetic, like my sister had said earlier, Mrs. Choma, be empathetic. Don't just sympathize, understand the situation, sympathize with the person, but come out and see a way you can understand the concept of empathy. So 2 says self-honesty. This has to even do with you and other people's emotion. So when you understand yourself, like in one of the models says self-awareness, then you recognize that emotions can get in the way of accurately assessing emotions in others. So other people's emotions can have effects on you to be able to assess them, but then you have to have these basic skills: empathy, self-honesty, and then recognize that, be aware as you are trying to identify in others, be sure that the ones you have a way of also getting into influencing the way you identify the other emotions in others. All right, so understand and manage. So these are some of the reflective questions. When you understand, when you identify, you now understand and manage. And these are the questions why you are trying to manage and get clearer understanding of the emotions. So these are the questions you should put in your mind. Will my response help or hinder the situation? Pause first. What am I about to say? Oh, the emotion I'm using to say it, will this, the way I'm going to say it, hinder response from the person I'm trying to control the emotions. Can you increase your awareness of your actions so that you see their effect? No, first, probably say, okay, if I say this, what will this person, how will the person interpret it? So be aware of the actions that might likely take place, when you want to come in, So now they want to say, am I hearing the unspoken message? So in trying to understand, when you identify emotion, when trying to understand it, these are some of the questions you should reflect on before taking actions. So the skills and concept that you can put into practice is reason and motivation. You manage the feelings, choose to affirm the positive, and develop social behaviors, interdependence. So for you to understand and manage emotions, you have to reason, well, and be motivated. You have to manage your feeling, learn how to curtail your own first, put it in check. Then choose to affirm the positive. Oh, if there's a positivity in what I'm about to say or in what this person is going through, affirm it first. Then develop social skills. You can't be withdrawn. You're not talking to anybody for some time and then you want to just come into the person's life and try to see how you manage their emotion. You are going to add kind of fuel to the fire. So you have to have social skills. Probably you have been communicating with this person, having a closer relationship with them over time so that you can be able to come in. And then you yourself be opened, work with others, interact, so that sometimes some emotion just need you to talk to the next person for them to just die down. And then interdependence, all that. Okay, so another one is use and communicate. How do you use and communicate? Reflect on this question. What is this emotion telling me? So at the end of it, the emotion that have flare off in me or I'm seeing in another person, what is it trying, the arrow of this emotion is pointing to what? Do I know how to use emotional language to help understanding? Am I hearing or hurting? So you have to just calm down and distinguish between these closely related aspects so that you'll be able to accurately communicate emotions to others and then be honest to yourself about your emotions. What will my emotional reaction have on others? Will this emotion help me reach my goal? Very, very important. So some skills that you can put in place when you want to use the emotions that are coming positively and also communicate them in a way that they don't cause harm on others is that you should apply consequential thinking and practice empathy again. Then people will remember the emotion of the situation long after they have forgotten the words and deeds. Wow, so the power of emotion is very, very important. So people will remember that, oh, they might forget the words you said, but how you say them is going to really, really affect. Then express the emotion appropriately. If it's anger you're trying to express towards the next person or even yourself, make sure that anger is meant to solve a problem. Let it not tend to rage, like we saw earlier, so that the anger is geared towards solving the problem and not causing more damage. And then practice integrity. Thank you very much. That's all for that session. So the last one for today is on optimism. Optimism. So these are some of the ways, like we said in section 4, the blueprint that can be able to help you to, express emotions well is you have to identify the emotions, you have to understand and, manage the emotions, and then you have to use it effectively to be able to communicate to another person, to let the other person or you yourself know, the exact thing you're trying to communicate using this emotion. So in section 5, we're going to look at optimism. What is optimism? So optimism and pessimism are attitudes which affect the way we see the world and what is happening around us. We can't talk about emotions without looking at this. Okay, thank you. We'll come back to that question at the end of this. So optimism and pessimism are attitudes which affect the way we see the world and what is happening around us. So we can't say we put optimism in people, neither can we say we will inject pessimism, or we have, or we can, especially in a workplace. People just tend to have this attitude. So when you discover an optimist person or a pessimist person, you have to understand, and that is why we are here. So we say optimists seek success. Optimists see success as the result of their own hard work, while a pessimist views success as being the result of good luck or fate. See the difference? An optimistic person sees he sees success as your ability to put in effort to achieve a given goal. But a pessimist just say, oh, it's my luck. They don't do anything. They just wait for something to just appear from the blues. But an optimistic person sees opportunity in everything and strives to achieve the goals by putting in step-by-step hard work towards it. So optimists see something like the loss of a job as a short term. Okay, I've lost my job. Oh, my life is finished. No, that is not how an optimistic person will look at and the loss of a job. It's like, oh, okay, the job is gone. Okay, no problem. We'll move ahead. There's something better. The person is so sure that there is always opportunities, even in the loss of a job. But the pessimist sees a job loss as someone else's doing, blaming others. Oh, my mother, she's the one that didn't train me well. Oh, my father spent all the scripts I needed to use for my school. That is why I didn't get the certificate. I needed to keep this job. Oh, it is my manager. He doesn't like me. Oh, that is how a pessimist sees life, blaming others for their own failure. Unlike the optimists, they see something that has gone out of their lives as an opportunity for something bigger to come. So in dealing with people in a workplace, these are the two categories of people we are going to meet. So if we come across such persons, we should know how and what type of emotions we should express towards them. And as well, you being a person or an individual, which of these thoughts reflects you? Are you an optimist, or are you a pessimist, a person that sees the loss of anything as the consequences of others' actions, or the person that sees the loss of something as a paved way to something bigger? So optimists have better overall health, you see, so they live longer and they have more ability to adapt to harsh conditions and decisions. To some extent, I can say Nigerians, most Nigerians have this attribute of being optimistic, because giving the opportunity or the things we experience in this country to other countries or states, they are going to have serious issues. But everybody still moves on, irrespective of what the situation is happening in the country. So you can see that these are practical things that we even experience. So an optimist have better overall health, live longer, and are able to more easily adapt to even the most harsh or horrible conditions. So which one are you? On the other side, the pessimists, suffer more incidents of ill health, including increased clinical depressions and anxiety. So probably in your workplace, you have a workforce and others are always falling sick, or everything you say, oh, if a new idea comes out and you express, every time they're bringing you. So you could be able to place this one, this is the group he belongs. Then the others that are always ready on the go to, carry out what needs to be done without complaint and with all the energy. You should be able to place them between these two school of thought, the optimism and the pessimism group of people, right? So pessimists can learn to change attitude and become more optimistic. So being an optimist is not always an approach that you can take. Sometimes it's difficult. You just want to give up because you are pressed against the wall so much that you want to say, Kai, I'm tired. But when that is building you, an optimistic mind is in you, you just have to push yourself against that wall and jack up and say, no, we can do this. Every setback is an opportunity for an optimistic person. So a pessimistic person also has a certain place and even some benefits, you know. So they are just trying to tell us here that even a pessimistic person, their own approach and view of life have advantages as well. So that you will not come and push yourself over and then go and end up dying. But overall and all in all is that it is better to have a more optimistic view about life than have a pessimistic view about it, in as much as both of them have the advantages and disadvantages, because life wouldn't just throw gold at you. So you just have to keep pushing and moving and be sensitive to your heart, you know, and then your inner voice, when to push, when to hold on, and when to still push again. So you can both express these two emotions. You can both express these two attitudes, you know, where there needs to be pushed. Don't say, oh, I beg, it is over. And where there needs for you to relax, you should, because all this affect our emotions in one way or the other, right? So, and the ABCs of optimism. So A says adversity. How does an optimistic person see adversity? You know, so anything you see as a problem. So what is the view of an optimistic person? He says B, believes. Our thoughts on the adversity become belief. So when you see adversity, right, an optimistic view says your reaction, your thought that you have built on that adversity becomes your belief. You know, so how do we feel about the adversity? That is the belief you are building. And then consequences, what actions takes place because of that belief. So you see, you first see adversity, you behold it, and then it becomes a thought in your head. And after a while, it becomes a belief, right, in your head. And then after the belief has been built, the next thing is that knowingly or unknowingly, you are going to start taking steps, and that is the action stage. So now D says disputation, distancing, or distracting. So in this case, now an optimistic person, when that actions come, you know, when you've seen it, then you have believed it, and then you start taking actions. Now, these are some of the action. Disputation is arguing with yourself. Distancing means moving away from the pessimistic attitude. Distracting helps you to break away from the pessimistic attitude. So these are the ABCs of an optimistic attitude. When you see the adversity or the challenge that has presented itself, what do? You have a thought, you have a conversation with it. When you do that, you create a belief. Let that belief be an optimistic belief, right? And when you do that, you have to start taking steps, you know, on where and how to go, and be the optimistic view that, oh, this thing I'm going to venge or take actions on is going to produce a positive result. So energization. So how disputing your pessimistic thoughts makes you feel. So when you come to a conclusion about the whole situation, and you're like, okay, this thing is possible, we can do it, let's start moving, you know. So when you do that and you sit back, so like, oh, okay, this is what happened, this is what came my way, but this is this and this and this are the actions and the feeling and the beliefs I had about it. So now that we have taken the steps and the right steps, wow, this is rewarding at the end of it. So a pessimistic person sits back and enjoys the benefits of their actions that are positive. All right. So thank you. So this is pessimism versus optimism, their view. So you see, a pessimistic person sees an adverse situation as being permanent. You know, he sees it as being pervasive. That is, it's choking me. It is taking my space. And then he now sees himself as powerless. But an optimistic person sees any adversity as, oh, it is temporary, it's going to go away. Then he isolates himself. He goes and sits, broods over it, thinks over it, And in that thinking, he discovers, oh, we can also move out of this. And actually, inside this particular adversity, there are opportunities. So an optimistic person sees a situation that is negative as temporal. He then isolates himself to calculate on what to do to come out of it, and then start taking possible efforts that makes him succeed. So the vet process, so you validate the emotions, explore the emotion, then you transform the emotion, and adversities, believe or feeling, consequences, dissonance, and debate, distract, and that. These are some of the things that we have. Now, let me just take this opportunity to say all these are in the full manual for the students. Because of time restraint, we didn't bring out everything that needs to be here, because we just have a little time for this presentation. But if you have the student manual, you're going to have the full details. You even have spaces where you need to provide answers, and then to understand the course better. And then when you provide answers that you feel are not correct, you can still go back to the manual, cross-check, and be on point. These are some of the exercises that we'll have in the manual. So from here, I just want to say thank you everyone for having a great time with us. I'm very sure we didn't waste your time, and that you have learned something so far about the history of emotional intelligence, the definition of emotional intelligence, the blueprint of emotional intelligence, and then the view about optimism.
Sorry, network just went off. So yes, we can get in contact with our team and we'll see what we can do about the questions about the slides. Thank you everyone who participated for your active participation and your time. And this is where we've come to the end of the meeting. We'll say goodbye and we hope to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Mama. Can you hear me? This is Choma.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I went off briefly.
All right, you can go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And thank you. We will close, like she said, we will be closing shortly. But I also want to use this opportunity to, I want to still be sure that Pharmacist Samson is not yet here. You know.
I'm here.
So, okay, sir. All right.
So, good morning, everyone, and I'm excited to have everyone who participated. It was very interesting, very exciting, and I want to inform us that this course is, of course, you already know how relevant it is in our day-to-day work. And so what we have tried to do is to have a very robust material for participants. So some have been asking for the slides, but the slides are inadequate to convey the message and guide participants to learn and extract as much information from the course as possible. So we will be giving out a kind of offer for the course. The course, as it is, has two ways of study. You can study individually, or you can study as a peer-to-peer blended learning. And we actually focus more on people gathering together and learning. You know, that's one of our vision, to be a platform where people can collaboratively learn. So for that, it's 15,000 Naira. You have a lot of tools. You have the student manual, you have the study outline, then you have what we call my ILP, which helps you to track your learning, document your learning, and then at the end of the course, you really know you have gained a lot. So because this is the first time we are launching this out, we are going to have a discount, okay? For those who are on this call, we have your emails. So we are going to open it for half of that price. So we are going to open a registration, but for a short period. There are some who have already started the course and paid 15,000. But for this particular one, we are going to open it up for 7,500 for those who participated. Okay, and it's going to be for a short period of time. So that's the offer that we want to make. Once again, we appreciate your participation, and hopefully by next week we have another course that will be presented. Patience, what's the course again? Is that communication?
Yes, sir. Communication strategy.
Okay. So again, we are going to announce that and then share the invite for registration within the week before that time. So I want to appreciate everyone and great kudos to the presenters, Patience and Choma. It was a wonderful presentation. I love it. And I believe the people also love it. Maybe next time we will, at the end of the presentation, at one point I was locked out. I didn't know if there was an opportunity given for questions. You know, so it's something that we need to give time to ask questions. But I really love the active and approach. That was good. That was lovely. Thanks. bless you.
Thank you, sir. So everyone, we'll see you in our next course. Have a beautiful day. Now, don't to forget, this is a certified course. If you're able to take it from the discounted price, register and participate fully, and take the ILP and the quizzes and grade it, you are going to come up with a certificate that will be given to you as well. So I encourage all of us to lay hold on this opportunity as you get enriched. Thank you very much and have a beautiful day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye.